Good morning. Earlier this morning, Fall River Mayor Jasiel Correia was arrested and charged with 9 counts of wire fraud and 4 counts of tax fraud, all arising from an alleged multi-year investment scam. Beginning in January 2013 and continuing over the course of 4 years, Correia allegedly convinced 7 people to invest over $363,000 in Snow Owl, a company designing an app to connect local businesses and individuals with a target consumer market. Correia, however, diverted more than $231,000 of that money, about 64%, to fund his political career and extravagant lifestyle and the needs of his other business ventures. This was not about poor accounting or honest mistakes. According to the indictment, Correia used investor money to fund personal travel and entertainment, spending thousands of dollars on airfare, luxury hotels, restaurants, casinos, dating services, and adult entertainment. Correia also allegedly bought tens of thousands of dollars of luxury items, including a 2011 Mercedes sedan, jewelry, and designer clothing. It appears he also used $10,000 of investor funds to fund his political campaigns and to pay down student loans. Correia did all this mostly by using a company debit card and a personal credit card. Meanwhile, according to the indictment, Correia deceived his investors in Snow Owl on an ongoing basis. He reassured them with fake updates as to Snow Owl's progress and finances, but refused to show anyone financial records like bank statements that would have revealed his expenditures. At the same time, Correia did little to keep Snow Owl a viable business, and as Snow Owl floundered, Correia announced his candidacy as mayor of Fall River. During the election, he even touted his stewardship of Snow Owl as one of his primary qualifications to be the mayor of that town. According to the indictment, in spring 2017, while Correia was mayor of Fall River, he learned that Snow Owl was the subject of a federal criminal investigation and took steps to hide the scheme. He instructed his accountant to file amended personal tax returns in an effort to account for the diverted investor funds that he had previously failed to report as income. In short, based on the indictment, despite the trappings of a company and whatever technical progress was made on the app product that Snow Owl intended to sell, the company was first and foremost a clever way to defraud well-intentioned investors and fund Correia's lifestyle. To date, no investor has received any return from their investment in Snow Owl. Based on the indictment, this fraud was committed by an elected official who was supposed to be a trustworthy advocate for the interests of his constituents. Obviously, every one of us is expected to follow the law, but this is especially so for those who ask for the support of a particular community so that he can lead and represent it. Taxpayers expect and deserve more from their elected officials. With that, I'd like to thank the FBI, the IRS, the Inspector General's office at HUD, and the Massachusetts Inspector General, all of whom did work on this case, brought it to a successful conclusion. And with that, I'll turn things over to Special Agent in Charge Hank Shaw of the FBI. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy, and good morning. Just to highlight a few of the additional points that Andy already brought up, at approximately 6:30 this morning, special agents with the FBI, IRS, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Inspector General, arrested Fall River Mayor Jasiel Correia. He was safely taken into custody without incident in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Today's arrest is a shock to many in the city, which has prided itself on a tradition of honest government, hard work, and public service. Yet its mayor was far from honest, selling out his friends and associates for his own personal gain. His actions were underhanded, shameless, and greedy. We believe he devised a scheme to defraud investors in his company, Snow Owl, out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, neglecting the development and growth of this company in order to focus on his own political career and his personal financial benefit. Mr. Correia blurred the lines between his private business and public duties, using investor funds as his own personal ATM, systematically looting almost $250,000. So what did he spend all the money on? Throughout the course of our investigation, we found he spent tens of thousands of dollars on airfare, luxury hotels, restaurants, casinos, and adult entertainment. He spent roughly 19 grand on luxury items, including a $10,000 payment for a Mercedes-Benz, jewelry for an ex-girlfriend, and designer clothing. Correia also used approximately $46,000 to pay down student loans, significant credit card debt, and to fund his own political campaigns. He even went as far as using investor money to make charitable donations in his own name. On top of cheating his investors, we allege he also cheated taxpayers by filing tax returns as soon as he found out, filing false tax returns as soon as he found out he was under federal investigation. Mayor Correia has brought undeserved shame and embarrassment upon the city of Fall River. He betrayed the trust of his investors and betrayed the trust of his constituents. Most of our elected officials are hardworking, honest people who truly have the best interests of their communities at heart. And yes, those who do not should be and will be held accountable for their actions. As we move forward, let me be clear. The FBI and our law enforcement partners will continue to investigate allegations of criminal conduct in Fall River and beyond. We will pursue anyone who steals from hardworking citizens as a means to fund lavish lifestyles or even a burgeoning political career. I'd like to acknowledge the great team of investigators, analysts, and prosecutors who worked so hard to bring this case to where it stands today. My sincerest appreciation for the tremendous work done by U.S. Attorney Lelling and his team, as well as the exceptional efforts of our colleagues at the IRS, HUD OIG, and the Massachusetts Office of the Inspector General. This was a team effort, and their continued partnership and support is truly valued. Thank you.
With the IRS. I'd like to thank United States Attorney Andrew Lelling and my law enforcement counterparts for giving me the opportunity to address you all here today. This morning, special agents from IRS Criminal Investigation participated in the arrest of Fall River Mayor Jasiel Correia. The financial crimes charged in this indictment are serious allegations. We believe Mr. Correia defrauded Snow Owl investors out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. We also believe that Mr. Correia omitted this illegally derived income from his 2013 and 2014 federal income taxes. Furthermore, once he was elected mayor, Mr. Correia continued to deceive his investors. He also misled his accountant, and after becoming aware of the federal investigation, he allegedly filed false amended tax returns to further impede investigators from uncovering this financial fraud. The investor money that Mr. Correia allegedly stole and failed to report to the IRS was traced by the investigative team, and that trail revealed Mr. Correia bankrolling a lavish lifestyle that included purchasing Mercedes, jewelry, designer clothing, and luxury vacations. IRS criminal investigation will continue to collaborate with our law enforcement partners and the United States Attorney's Office on all of these important investigations. The taxpaying public must have confidence that if a crime is committed, status as a political leader will provide no protection from federal prosecution. Thank you. Questions?
U.S. Attorney, can you just tell us, did the mayor try to cover up the alleged crimes once he realized that you were onto him, or what can you tell us was happening?
Well, I think what I can say is acknowledge the timing, as I did in my remarks, meaning it appears that after learning of the existence of the investigation, that's when he began his efforts to deal with his accountant and get his tax returns, shall we say, amended or altered. So what's going on inside his head when that happens, I don't know. But the timing is suspicious to us and appears to be linked.
Mr. Lelling, Special Agent Shaw said he was arrested in Bridgewater. Is that where he lives? He doesn't live in Fall River?
He does not live in Bridgewater. But beyond that, I'm not going to comment on the circumstances of the arrest.
How much of the investor money has been recovered?
That's a good question. I think so far none of the investor money has been recovered because The nature of this kind of crime, which is not an uncommon one in the white-collar area, is that when investor money is stolen, it's usually immediately spent. And so none of these investors have seen a return on their investment, and we know through the tracing of funds through various accounts that he spent pretty much all of it.
Are these investors local to the Fall River area?
They're local. They're in Massachusetts, but not necessarily local to Fall River.
And are they cooperating with you? Are they willing to testify against them?
We have spoken to various of the investors. I think beyond that, I shouldn't comment.
So just if I could follow up, so the total amount invested was just over $363,000. It's alleged to be $231. The remainder went to the actual product, Snow Owl.
I think it's important to note that there was an actual product that Snow Owl created. There was a prototype for an app. It actually did work. So it existed, which is not true in all cases of this kind. And he did spend some money to have a go at it, at least initially, and then later simply began to use more and more of the investor dollars and neglect the viability of the company.
Has anybody had a chance to interview Mr. Correia yet?
I'm sorry?
Has anybody had a chance to interview Mr. Correia yet?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Does any of this investigation include city funds or HUD-directed funds for a business grant for the city of Fall River?
So far, we have not seen the use of what would be public funds. The investigation is ongoing.
Can you provide more specifics about
I'm sorry.
how he used this money to fund his political campaign? Was it for events? Was it for signs?
I think what I would say is that we're aware of those details, but they're not public details. And so I'm afraid I can't give you that.
What is the status of Snow Owl right now?
Snow Owl is dormant.
You allege that this predated his election, and this was used to go on to help him achieve office. Are you saying that this persisted during his term in office?
Yes, in that it persisted while he was in office, at least to the extent that he is, or according to the indictment, arranging for fraudulent returns to be filed with the IRS. That's occurring while he is mayor of Fall River.
Inspector General Cooner is here. What is the involvement of the state in these charges?
Well, these are all federal charges. The Inspector General's office assisted us substantially with the investigation itself. Obviously, there's a state interest in this kind of case. It's an elected official of the state of Massachusetts.
What about HUD?
HUD also assisted with the investigation, especially in its early stages. But beyond that, those are details that I can't give you at this time.
How many employees does this company have? I mean, is there an entire workforce here that
It was not a large company. Some of it was contract work with developers or software engineers. I'd say about 3 to 4, but I should qualify that. I'm not positive as to the number.
What's your message to other elected officials who think they can beat you and get around you and succeed in what you're trying to do in a case like this?
Well, I think as you've seen this office do in the past, especially with crimes by public officials that involve money, and obviously most of them do, as I like to say about the federal government, we're slow, but we usually catch up. Meaning, at the end of the day, it's extremely difficult to hide those kinds of crimes. We take them very seriously. Now, I know you hear us say that a lot, but what that means in concrete terms is that if you are an elected official and you commit some kind of fraud, we will go after you even though the dollars involved might be a little less than what we would do in the usual fraud case. Run-of-the-mill fraud case with a private citizen, one of the things we look at is how much money is involved. Is it worth a federal charge? If you're a public official, that amount is going to be lower. We are more willing to take on those kinds of cases because you can't have public officials engaged either in committing fraud and their constituents are unwitting, or in using their position for personal gain, and obviously we've seen those kinds of cases as well.
with the investigation, do you allege that he was calculated, and when were you first tipped off as to something was awry?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Do you allege that he was very calculated in how he was doing this? Was he sloppy? Was he sloppy?
No, we allege this was intentional fraud. We allege that he knew exactly what he was doing, meaning on the one hand, he's spending the investor money. He's soliciting the investor money. He's spending the investor money. And then when asked by the investors, he's reassuring them that the money is being used for the company and that the company is in good shape. When he himself knows that that is not the case, that he has spent 65% of the dollars involved on his own personal expenses or other business ventures instead of the one venture in which these investors invested, which was Snow Owl.
Have you made any other arrests in this case, or do you plan to?
Investigation's ongoing. I can tell you we have not made other arrests in this case.
What prompted your investigation into him?
We received information implying that the mayor was misusing funds in relation to his campaign, and that is what led us to look into what he was doing.
Was Snow Owl ever available to consumers? Did ever
No, it was just a prototype.
revenue?
No. My understanding is that Snow Owl did not have revenue, but it did reach the prototype stage.
Do you believe
It was
the
meant
other?
for what, Andy? What was it meant to? How did it come to market?
Essentially what the app would do is allow users, if they travel somewhere, for example, to find local merchants who are selling things that they might need or local services. And so the services or merchants would subscribe to the app. Users of the app, if you're in Nashville, you could find a nearby merchant of a particular type that you're looking for.
Could you talk about why Snow Owl was incorporated in Delaware? This is a secrecy jurisdiction. What's the significance of that?
Well, I think all I'd say to that is that I think, as most of you know, it is not unusual to incorporate in Delaware because of the favorable corporate laws in that jurisdiction. We have not seen in this case any particular significance to the incorporation in that state as opposed to any other state.
Do you believe the other associates, employees of Snow Owl were involved in fraud as well, or were they unaware this was going on?
I'm not going to comment on that.
With regard
Are
to
you
the-
investigating Hildegard Tamara, the person he appointed in Fall River, who was also said to be an investor in Snow Owl?
I'm not going to comment on that. The investigation's ongoing.
With regard to the casinos and the adult entertainment, do you allege that any of that happened while he was mayor?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question standing here. If that is something that we can make public, we can get you that information.
There were 3 other partners and apparently an analyst with Snow Owl. Did you get a chance to talk to them or grant them immunity or anything?
I'm not going to comment on that. That information is not public.
Okay, one more question, anyone?
I understand Mayor Correia was in the city last night at a high-end nightclub, getting down at a rap concert. Does that speak to his hubris, or, I mean, he obviously knew you guys were on to him. Was he spending down the money?
I don't think we have any indications that he was specifically spending that money because he knew that we were onto him. Beyond that, I think I'm not going to comment on his social life.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.